Many people think that to be a Christian requires a blind leap of faith, that to think that God exists or that the Bible is reliable is completely unreasonable. But is that really the case? I'm joined today by Dr. Gavin Ortlund, who is a Christian scholar and a pastor, to unpack some of these issues. Gavin, does belief in God defy reason?
Well, I would say there's many, many reasons to believe in God, and it's a very reasonable belief. I always think about the quote from Cotton Mather, who said, there is not but a fly, but gives testimony to a creator. And I think about that because to me, sometimes it's the little things that you notice where you have a moment where you kind of realize, wow, could this all have happened by accident? A few weeks back here at my office here at Reasons to Believe, there was a spider right outside my window, and I just stopped and observed it. And I just remember thinking what an amazing animal a spider is. The way they create the silk for their web and everything that they do is just astonishing. And you think, even just in that one little animal, there's a whole world of fascination and wonder at what it is able to do. And I think when you think, okay, now the whole world in which it inhabits, I think there's so many reasons why our hearts are sort of naturally drawn to this sense of there must be a higher power, must be a creator. I think one of the ways to get at that is the old argument that C.S. Lewis used, where he said not only is it reasonable to believe in God, it's difficult to believe in reason itself without God. And he used that argument. He had to sharpen it after a debate with Elizabeth Anselm, who was a philosopher, but he didn't abandon it like some people say. And Anselm herself affirmed the validity of the argument. But to me, and I wouldn't put all my focus on just this one argument, but I do think it's one thing that's worth considering. That is, if blind processes are what got us here, if it's just natural selection acting upon random genetic mutation, and that's not just one cause for the current state of the world and life in the world, but it's the paradigm, it's the reason for everything, then what has produced our brains is ultimately survival. What will help us survive and pass on our genes? And that's the reason for everything. And, it's kind of a basic worldview difference you bump into here. Has mind produced mind, or did matter produce mind? And it does make me think, it kind of destabilizes our confidence in our brain's ability to discover truth, especially about abstract things. Because truth doesn't always have survival value. A lot of times it does, but not always. So if it's just about survival, can we really be confident in our use of reason? I think Darwin himself struggled with that at times, wondering, can I ultimately trust my brain if it's just a machine to help me survive? By contrast, if you have a Christian worldview where an infinite mind has ordered our world and gives stability to its laws, that's the kind of worldview that would generate things like science. And the old quip from Kepler, science is thinking God's thoughts after him. I really see that as a common intuition among a lot of the early founders of modern science, Newton and Boyle and others. And what compelled them in their efforts was in part this awareness that, or their belief that there is stability to our world's laws because they've been put into place by a creator God. I don't think you have to believe that to be a good scientist, but I think that's the kind of worldview that will encourage an effort like science. And the Boyle lectures, which still go on today, they started in the 1690s, and it was originally clergymen who gave these lectures, and the whole purpose of them, the stated purpose, was to prove the truthfulness of Christianity. It's amazing to go back and read even just the topics that these clergymen addressed and the incredible harmony between science and faith, to where they're looking at the natural order and then they're appealing to these scriptural passages and they're going back and forth. And I think it's interesting that Christianity was such an encouragement to these men to do scientific endeavor. And I think that would be one area where I think Christianity is a very reasonable religion and actually is the kind of religion that really encourages efforts at reason and science and really all intellectual pursuit.